I was watching Rain's VODs, and she did this often, like streaking early and then in late stage 3 or early stage 4, especially in situations where you're three-way contested for Lilia or Ashe, to just skip the 4-cost lottery in stage 4 and just greeting for 9 and playing around like legendaries or like hoping someone dies or hope you like hit 1 copy. I played one game where I was three-way contested for Ashe and I had 1 copy of Ashe. I was the most healthy out of everyone and I had like maybe 40 gold. So I could have rolled down the 40 gold, but like I think each of the other 2 players already had 2 copies of Ashe. So there are 5 copies left and I need to hit 2 of them with 40 gold. So in that situation, I'm like, okay, I can, and I had an Aphelios too. So I could just kind of like lose a little bit of HP in stage 4, go 9. I mean, I guess that's the hard part is like I just hope one of them die and open up the copies again.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's just a matter of really evaluating what's like the highest EV, right? At the end of the day, if you're triple contested on it, one thing that you might notice, this is pretty important. Ashe 2 can lose to Ashe 1, right? That's a very reasonable way for a fight to play out if your front line and the rest of the units around it are better than the other players, right? So if you look at your front line and you're like, okay, I have a Mumu 2, 2-star not, like a set 1, and an Alawi 2. I look at those units. Ashe might not be upgraded, but if the front line is good and my items are good, I don't really care about hitting the Ashe 2 much. So if I go 9 there, 1, I'll have better odds, and 2, I am more likely to, potentially hit some of the more high value legendaries. So maybe I can get into the set 2. Maybe then I'll be able to potentially fit either like Syndra, or I might be able to get like a list 2 or something like that, and that could go on the board instead, right? My front line isn't there yet, then it's still probably worth it to roll a bit, but not go that deep, right? So at the end of the day, uh, at least this is sort of my philosophy, is that if you're being contested on your carry, you don't necessarily need to hit your carry upgraded. But it would be nice to hit the front line, because that's really what makes or breaks the fight, right? So if your front line is, you think your front line is there, and your back line is good enough, if I have, 2-star Aphelios or whatever is necessary, it's okay to push the level through. So I think the main thing is just to understand, like, in most of these front to back fights, it's not exactly your back line that's letting you win any of those fights, right? It's nice, right? But it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is where your front line is at. If you have, even if you're not playing around Warden, right? If I'm playing Axe and I have like 2-star Warden, for example, that might be enough, right? If my front line is there and I see, okay, this one person has Ashe Power on their board and this person has Ashe 2, I'm not going to be rolling for Ashe. I'm not going to be rolling for Ashe 2 the entire time. I'm just going to go 9 and sort of play for some other unit that I can put in, and that'll hopefully stabilize me even better. And that's sort of what I would recommend. At the end of the day, hitting your carry is nice, but in the front line, if it's front, for example, one other option is like if you're playing duelists, right? What exactly do you need to have on your board so that it's stable? You know, can I get away with playing a Lee Sin 1 if I'm being contested? Because there were people in my lobby yesterday, they had a Lee Sin 1, they still top 3, right? Because the rest of the units around were there, their augments were there. They had an Irelia, right? That if you already have the Irelia, that's pretty stable already. You don't need to roll too much. You can start pushing the level. So as long as you can recognize, okay, I have the necessary conditions for this board. I don't necessarily need the upgrades. I don't necessarily need my carry to be upgraded, as long as everything else around there seems like, if you're still losing rounds by a lot, that's a very clear indicator. Okay, gotta roll, gotta roll. Otherwise, I'm gonna be dead, right? But if you have the health to push levels and you're not losing fights that poorly, and you're thinking, okay, I'm actually winning half of these or something like that, and that's when you can be like, okay, there's no reason for me to roll if I'm being tested, because like your odds to hit are very low. If I push levels, my odds to hit not just my carry, but something else are going to go way up, right? And maybe they'll drop off eventually. But that's sort of just one of the things you have to be like, when is good enough for me to stop? And when is good enough for me to start going to the next level?